The next slide, please, Faye. This is to really highlight. Now, the data that you can see on here actually is kind of pre-COVID. So what we'll probably know is that this data is going to shift in the wrong direction. But what you can see is we've got this almighty gap in employment between those with a learning disability, those with a disability, and those without a registered disability. And it's huge. And it hasn't changed. And in fact, to a certain degree, it's gone down slightly. So what you can see pre-COVID was that 79%, around 79% of our general population were in paid employment, around 45% of those with a disability in paid employment, and below 6% of people with a learning disability were in paid employment. And what we also know is that if people with a learning disability and autism, if they do not secure jobs in their last year of education, they are very unlikely to do that for the rest of their lives. Yet, MenCap, and we've got some great presentations from MenCap, did some great surveys around this, and actually the vast majority of people with a learning disability want to work. And so what we've got is this real disconnect, this whole group of people that really want to share their skills, share their qualities, add value to the workplace, but are just not by our society being given that opportunity. So if we can flick through these slides, please, Faye. What we do know is that the earlier we can get people to an experience of employment, the more likely they are to sustain it and to live a really good career life, jobs that they really want to do. And actually, if that wasn't compelling enough, our health actually depends on this. And so these are the latest statistics, and this looks at the median age of death of people with different types of learning disabilities. What you can see there is people with a mild learning disability, their median age of death is 62, moderate learning disability 63, people with a severe learning disability 57, and people with a profound and multiple learning disability 40. And if we compare that to our national average, we're looking at between 23 and 27 years difference. And there's really good arguments to say that is really not very much or nothing at all to do with physical health. This is to do with socioeconomic factors. And that's the bit we can do something about. As a community, we can be way more inclusive and diverse in the population that we employ within our local businesses. And that's very much what today is about. And I think it's a very great time to be having this conversation. If we could just go to the next slide, please, Faye. Because what we cannot have is that these learners that we're going to be talking to you about today, these people that are transitioning out of education and really want to work, they can't be that lost generation due to the impact of COVID-19. These people that we're talking about today were already this minority group. Now, what happens to minority groups when we're in a pandemic like this or any type of disaster is that they just get forgotten altogether, and we cannot have that happen in Warwickshire. And so this is why it's so brilliant to have so many of you have made the decision to join us today, because you've already, by doing this, shown us that you've got a vested interest in this. This is something that you're willing to explore. So yeah, this is our mission. They cannot be that lost generation. If I could just have the next one, please. And so for Warwickshire Local Authority, I've partnered with Warwickshire for many years now, and we made a decision a number of years ago when we were setting some strategic goals that in Warwickshire there will be a presumption of employment for all. And that there are a million reasons why that's absolutely the right thing, and that impacts on their feeling of self-worth, but also physical health, but also to the economy. You know, we need this rich talent pool. So today we've worked really hard around things like supported internships that you'll hear a little bit about in a moment. And today is about thinking about apprenticeships and how do we make those slightly more, how do we make this population able to get to those opportunities? And MenCap are going to talk to you about exactly how we're going to make that possible in Warwickshire by partnering with some of our really dynamic, brilliant employers in their local area. So I'm going to hand over now to Louise Saunders from National Grid, who's going to talk about National Grid's journey so far.
Thanks a lot, Claire. So as Claire says, I'm Louise Saunders and I'm from National Grid. And, you know, I want to talk to you about the numerous benefits actually businesses can enjoy when they do support young people with special educational needs and learning disabilities into the workplace. So I've been involved in our supported internship programme called Employability Let's Work Together since we launched it in 2013. And I've set the programme up at the Solihull site and was the programme lead there for 6 years. And I also sit on the National SEND Employment Forum alongside Claire. And we as a forum aim to accelerate the change really, and ensure that all young people with SEND have the opportunity to access supported internships across the country. So if you can go on to the next slide for me, thank you. So I want to start really by first positioning what I sort of call the compelling argument. And what I mean by this is the compelling argument for businesses to really diversify their workforce and skills within their organisation. You know, there are numerous benefits on offer for businesses, but before I talk about them, this slide does paint a sort of worrying picture, and Claire's talked about some of these stats. I've got some slightly different ones, but we've probably gone to different sources. So if I can just draw your attention to the chart on the left and those two extremes, you know, starting with the percentage of people with no disabilities, which is around that 80%, and those with a learning disability. And the latest figures actually show that shockingly low figure is 5.6%. And it is a statistic that unfortunately is going in the wrong direction. And, you know, I know MenCap are here today, and according to research that they've done, 65% of people with learning disabilities absolutely want to work. And the majority of them are more than able to with the right levels of support, but more importantly, having the right opportunities available to them. And I absolutely love this quote that talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not. And I think really this epitomises this situation. You know, we've got all this diverse talent available, but a real lack of opportunity for them to be able to share it. And I think we all need to view those with a hidden disability, which is the way it's often termed, as people with hidden talents who just need those opportunities so that they can demonstrate them. So if we can go on to the next slide, please. Thank you. So I've said that at National Grid for the last 7 years, we've run a successful supported internship programme. And this slide just very, very simply shows how our model works. So we partner with local special schools and colleges, and we develop really mutually beneficial relationships with them as their students are our potential interns. And as Claire said, it's very much those students in their last year of education. As supported internships are excellent models to actually bridge that transition from education into employment. So as a business, we provide placements for the interns, and those placements last over an academic year, and they are real jobs. So typically an intern will rotate across 3 placements, each one lasting an academic term. But of course, we flex that to suit the intern's individual needs. So they really pick up and absorb a whole host of new skills in a variety of different roles. One of the most critical elements of a supported internship programme are the job coaches, who are specially trained to support the interns, and they are funded by the government's Access to Work Fund. And the end result is absolutely employment-ready individuals who've amassed a whole host of new skills and talents and abilities, and not just those that are work related, but all the sort of interpersonal and softer skills. Their confidence grows immensely, things like communication as well. And through our experience, we believe there are some real vital ingredients for maximising success. And these include, the support and commitment from leadership and colleagues within the business, as well as a real unwavering belief that these young people can achieve and go on to great things. So if we could go on to the next slide, please. Thanks. So whilst I've been talking about, supported internships, these benefits are ones that can be enjoyed by all businesses who look to employ individuals with learning disabilities. And diversity of talent and skills absolutely enriches an organisation's workforce and its collective capabilities. And it doesn't matter, whatever industry sector you're in, being able to think and act differently can really increase competitive edge, productivity and financial performance. Individuals with learning disabilities often have, particular talents, heightened skills in attention to detail, an intense focus on tasks, identification of problems and discrepancies in, say, routine and repetitive activities. And that can lead to real improvements in performance and productivity. And whether directly or indirectly, your customer and consumer base will include individuals with learning disabilities. So it's really important that businesses appeal to all their potential customers and not exclude those with learning disabilities by having a lack of disability confidence and awareness, or just by providing services and products that are inaccessible to them, and that includes just things like their web pages. Consumers, we know, are becoming increasingly savvy in their purchasing choices, and they will absolutely seek out organisations that make them feel included and offer something that they can access. It is estimated that, you know, the sort of UK spending power of disability people is 249 billion, and that's a huge amount of spending power. Some businesses may have challenges in securing the skills and talent, not only that they need today, but also for the future. So there's a real opportunity to improve, you know, businesses' ability to recruit and retain the talent they need for the future by nurturing and building the skills within young people whilst they are still in education. In addition, research carried out by the Careers and Enterprise Company shows that young people who have had 4 or more encounters with employers are 86% less likely to become NEET, which means not in education, employment or training. So businesses supporting particularly young people with SEND and learning disabilities whilst in education is just so important. Many businesses find that employees with learning disabilities are really loyal and committed individuals. You know, against that appallingly low sort of backdrop of 5.6% achieving paid employment, you know, securing a paid job is a massive achievement and one they're unlikely to want to lose. We absolutely see and know that employee engagement improves when workforces feel they are working for organisations that really care for all their employees and represent the society within which they operate. So being fully inclusive and embracing a diverse workforce really does exactly this. Being disability confidence can improve an individual's coaching and leadership skills, as well as giving people, you know, real huge satisfaction that they're positively contributing to individual, team and organisational outcomes. And the chances are that many adjustments needed for an individual or a working environment will actually be beneficial to everybody. And being a socially responsible business may seem like a bit of a buzz phrase of the 21st century, but socially responsible businesses are really attractive propositions to customers, shareholders and investors alike. So if we move on to the next slide, thank you. So looping back to National Grid's experience with our supported internship programme, we've absolutely enjoyed many of these benefits as I've listed them here. And I thought it was worth just sort of saying that when I first got involved with the programme, I actually rather naively thought the benefits would be one way, and that, you know, to the young person, our interns. But, you know, it absolutely blew me away, the sort of positive impact it has on our employees. It's just immense. And it doesn't just benefit their working life, but it actually benefits personal lives as well, as they become more disability aware and confident. And you know, surely that's a huge benefit to society as a whole. Okay, next slide, thank you. So, you know, very simply here, our results say it all. So against that 5.6% statistic, you know, you compare that to the interns that leave our programme, 60% of them go on to secure paid employment. So it really demonstrates just how important programmes like these and other supported programmes are. And our results absolutely aren't unusual, as many supported internship models have similar and even better outcomes than this. And across our 3 sites within National Grid, we've welcomed over 100 interns onto our programme, and they've successfully completed it. So next slide, thank you. So in summary, you know, programmes like this absolutely, for me, are definitely a win-win-win. So hopefully you've seen how hugely beneficial they are for young people with learning disabilities, the benefits to businesses, which we've explored, but also the positive impact on society. you know, collectively they will improve social mobility, create real equal opportunities, save money to the public purse, and raise levels of disability confidence, and get rid of all those unconscious biases that sit within society. So next slide, thank you. So all the slides will be sent out to you, and my last one does include some links to some useful resources, but I just want to end by giving the final word to some of our interns and their parents. So we just leave that for, give people a bit of time to read, and just really many thanks for listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Louise. That was really brilliant to hear your experience. And while you're reading some of those quotes, I'll just gently introduce our next speaker, which is Tarai Horton. Tarai and I have done lots of work together over the years. Tarai attended the school that I worked at some years ago, and he's just going to talk us through his personal journey through supported employment and kind of into his career. So it's over to you, Tarai.
Yeah. Thank you, Claire. So hi everyone. My name is Tarai Horton. The reason why I'm here is to kind of talk about my journey from beginning to end, the experiences that I've gone through, and also the challenges that I've faced, really. So I guess, well, why am I telling you this story? So the reason why I'm telling you the story is that it relates a lot to disability, a lot to autism, and a lot in the realm of special educational needs. So I want to go all the way back to, I guess, when I was a baby. So around the age of 1, I was diagnosed with meningitis, and soon after I was actually diagnosed with autism. Now, for me, quite early on, I struggled a lot in a lot of things. Academically, wasn't very good at maths, wasn't very good at English, science, or all the usual subjects I was pretty rubbish at. And I can remember it wasn't even until around the age of 10 where I could actually write my own name. And on the other aspect of socializing and interacting with people, I was very timid, I was very shy, and I didn't really like to interact with others. In terms of my social qualities, they were not that great. And so very early on, I was this kid who didn't really like to socialize with anybody and was not very good at doing things other people were very good at. Next slide, please, Claire. So I went through 2 different schools. My primary school was Ridgeway, which is a local special educational needs school within Warwickshire, and also Round Oak. Again, they specialise in special educational needs as well. I went through these schools, and the reason why I'm telling you is what my experience while going through these schools was that I carried on with my academics and I started getting a bit better, but there was an issue where I started looking at some of my older peers, and a lot of them were quite down and depressed, and I wasn't really too sure why that was. And it turns out a lot of them were getting ready to transition from their school life to either going to college or further education, or looking at starting that step in their career in whatever job or whatever trade they want to do. But the issue is a lot of them had the same kind of challenges as I did, whereas they were looking to go into those areas, but they didn't have the qualifications or the experience to actually get in there. And so already before they left the kind of, I guess, safe haven in a way from education, they already were facing barriers that were in place for them to actually progress and do more. And so for me, quite early on, my aspirations were very low. I was about 2013, summertime, and I was in 6th form looking to move on to those steps or those routes. And for me, I tried the work element. I remember around the time Morrison's opened next to me, and there was about, if I remember rightly, 100 or so jobs. And then after that, there was roughly around a couple hundred to 1,000 applicants that actually applied for that. And I also applied. But at the time, I just completed my GCSEs. I got a load of Ds, I got a load of Es. And what happened is I didn't hear anything back from them. Of course, I don't hold anything back against them. I know there's a lot of applicants, but what made me realize was my qualifications compared to what the other people had, and the fact that we were going for the same route, there was no way I was ever going to get through that route. So I thought, okay, how about I look at further education? So I went to look at college, my local college, and I really wanted to do a level 1 or level 2 in business or IT. but due to my qualifications, I couldn't go down that route. And so I thought to myself, look, I'm this young man who's want to go and do things, but I can't actually go and do things. There's no route, there's no solution for me to get there other than to maybe start off in an entry level course or do something that I don't want to do. And to be honest, for me, I was quite down because I knew I could do more. I knew I could go further, but I just felt like there was no options for me there. So it was very much looking like at that point, it's either going to be, life on the sofa, life on benefits potentially, or I'd be just at home playing video games all day. And to be fair, at the time, my age, I probably would have been happy with that. But as you all know, eventually you get bored. You feel like you need to have a bit more meaning in your life and something to actually do and to strive for. Whereas for me at that time, I didn't see that. And it really bugged me because, I'm autistic. I always felt I was very different from other people. A lot of my friends had no disabilities and they could always do things that I couldn't do. And it just made me hate myself more and more for being different. So that summer, I was very much looking at leaving school with no route, no anything really. But funny enough, Claire Cookson approached me and said to me, Tarai, we have this internship. It's called Employability. Let's work together. You'll spend an academic year within National Grid's offices, and you'll get to be getting all this different work experience and all these different skills. Do you fancy it? And then honestly, at the time, I thought, you know what? Why not? I've got nothing else to lose. But it was at that point where I was like, right, okay, maybe there's actually something I could get out of this. Maybe it will be very valuable for me. So I thought, let's go ahead and let's do it. Next slide, please, Claire. Thank you. So this is where I started my internship at National Grid. Now, they have an office within Warwick. It's quite big, quite swanky, in my opinion. Going from a local special educational needs secondary school where it's about 100, 150 people to this place where it's like well over 1,000 people. Very daunting for me. Again, I was very shy, very timid, didn't really know who I was as an individual yet. And so for me, going into this place, experiencing new things was a very big challenge for me. But I did 2 work placements over the time I was at this place. One was in safety, health and environment, and another one was in gas operations. Now, why am I telling you this? Well, there's one particular area where I did a piece of work which made me realize, oh, maybe I can do things which were beyond my ability. And that was within the safety, health and environmental team. Now, my manager came to me, was like, Tarai, we got this presentation, I need you to do it. And I thought, okay, sure, I'll give it a go. I'll set my mind to something and I'll do it if need be. I'm not one of those people that would potentially quit too easily. And so I said, okay, what is it? And he said, all right, produce this presentation and then essentially present it to our managers. It is a presentation on linking sustainability performance with financial performance. And now what that essentially means is adding pound signs to trees and biodiversity within the land that you own as a business. And so I thought, okay, cool, give it a go. I remember opening the first document because there's a lot of research, a lot of people I need to speak to, a lot of things I had to do on my own. And I realized that, I can't do this. It's too hard. But then I carried on. And the funny thing is I could actually do it. That was the first realization, the first kind of switch in my head where I realized, oh, maybe I could do something which was beyond my ability. And so I carried it on. I did the presentation. And then at the end of it, I felt great. I thought, you know what, we're halfway through this academic year. What else could I do with the skills that I have now? And how could I improve myself as an individual to go further, to potentially get to where I want to get into, whether that's, a future career or something else. So it came to 2014. It was summertime. I was like, you know what, I now have this aspiration to go in and do things. And I have the motivation to actually, put some effort in and put some work in, because I feel like my mindset had changed and realized that, you know what, go for it, Tarai. And so I was getting ready to go to college. Yeah, I was thinking of going through the entry-level course, which was skill builders, but I thought, I'll do that a year or two, then I'll try and get my grades up, go for harder courses, and then hopefully things will sort out there. But then funny enough, after that, I got offered a job at National Grid. And I was over the moon. I was really pleased. You know, the fact that I put all that hard work in over the academic year and it paid off was amazing for me. And I remember telling my mum about it because my mum was very much kind of like my rock. She's the one who supported me. She was the one who pushed me into this, and she was the one who really believed in me. And I remember telling her, you know, I got the job, Mom, I'm so happy, and she's really proud of me. And I remember getting messages from the rest of my family and friends saying congratulations. Weren't too sure what for, but then I realised she told everybody, and I was over the moon because it made me feel like she was proud of me as well. Next slide, please, Claire. So yeah, my first job. So safety, health, and sustainability. So what did I actually do? Next slide as well, please, Claire. So I started off doing things like creating action plans, timelines, researching different topics. But then over the years, I started really focusing on the skills that I weren't that great at and that I could improve on. And then over that amount of time, I started doing more. Next slide, please, Claire. I started going from producing performance reports, you know, doing an incident investigation, safety procedures, safety bulletins, risk assessments, performance boards, all these different types of things where if you looked at my qualifications or looked at my CV, my resume, you would not believe I'd be doing that. And I must admit, it wasn't easy. It was quite hard, but I had this motivation, this aspiration to become something better and really go out there and achieve more, that I thought, you know what, I need to do it. And so over those years, I did night courses and I did maths and my English for GCSE, got the grades I needed for that. I had a level 3 in my health and safety qualification, which is the NEBOSH General Certificate in Occupational Health and Safety. And I really pushed on developing myself outside of I guess, traditional methods in order to get further ahead. And I gained all this experience from it, and it made me a lot better. And you wouldn't believe, you know, the fact that I'm doing this now. Please, Claire. So yeah, this program, you know, I developed new skills. I gained a lot of confidence from it because I felt like the support that I had there and the people that I met enabled me to become a better person and enabled me to really believe in myself a bit more. And the pieces of work that I did gave me that more confidence I needed to actually go out there and start doing more. You know, I gained valuable work experience. What I wanted to do in the field that I wanted to work in, this was exactly the work experience I needed because I could prove that, okay, whether it's planning and organizing, whether it's data management, process improvement, I gained all of that through a scheme. And ultimately, I gained paid employment, but it's not just paid employment, it's the meaningful paid employment that I've been looking for. Something that I wanted to do for a long time. And even though I was not any at all familiar with safety, health, and environment, I ended up dabbling in it and realizing, oh, I actually really like it. And so going into that, doing that really helped me become the man I am today. You know, a competent guy, a confident guy who knows what he's doing, knows what he wants to do, and is striving to achieve more. Next, please, Claire. So why am I telling you all this? Well, it's not just that I want to go on to you guys and give you a bit of a story, but it's mainly the fact that my life could have gone two different routes. You know, it's either life on the sofa doing nothing or life on benefits, because I felt like at the time that there were no options out there for me. Nothing that I could do with the qualifications that I had or the experience that I had to go into any of the routes. Traditionally, the average apprenticeship would usually ask for maths and English or A levels, and I didn't have that at all. And although I could demonstrate that I could get up to that level and I could gain the experience to essentially do the job, I couldn't do that through traditional means. And National Grid putting this opportunity in place for this internship for me helped me demonstrate that, you know what, I may not be doing a traditional interview, but you give me some time, I'll do some work experience, I can become the person you need to do that job. And so really what I'm telling you guys is that I'd consider myself pretty average. I'm nothing special. And there's loads and loads of people like me. Some of them a lot smarter than me. And they all have difficulties that range from different types. and they all have something to bring to the table. You know, over the time I worked in National Grid, and I still work in National Grid now, I've been able to bring in loads of value, whether it's saving money from improving processes, or whether it's making sure that the job that we're doing is improved day after day. You know, there's a lot that I've brought into the table, and a lot of what other people that I know of with the same difficulties as me have been able to bring to the table. So I guess the only thing and the only main point that I want to make is you guys can help provide those opportunities to individuals like myself, which there are tens to hundreds of people in Warwickshire that's going to be exactly in the position that I was in. And you guys have the ability to do that. And I think these inclusive apprenticeships that we're hopefully going to be able to get rolled out for you guys to uptake and to do, I think will be amazing. And if you can get involved, I think it would do a lot of good for you guys and also for the local community. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarai. Incredible as ever. But I think what Sarai has really eloquently said and demonstrated is this is the power of putting in the right training provision and the right support mechanisms to enable people to flourish. So thank you so much, Sarai, for sharing your journey. And I'm going to hand over now to Elaine Skates from the Heart of England Forest, who's just going to tell us a little bit about why did they put this at the centre of their business plan and moving forward. So over to you, Elaine.
Thank you, Claire. Hi, everyone. I've only got 5 minutes, so I'd very quickly like to run through why we've placed employment opportunities for young people with special educational needs and disabilities at the heart of our business and how we are already seeing the benefits. So we're already quite early on in our journey, but as a result of this commitment, we've already secured £1.7 million of funding to create a commercial tree nursery, which we will set up as a social enterprise, employing adults with SEND. Next slide, please. Very briefly, the background to the Heart of England Forest is that we are a registered charity with the aim to create a 30,000 acre forest in Warwickshire and Worcestershire, where the ancient forests of Arden and Feckenham once dominated the landscape. Next slide, please. Today, Britain has one of the lowest percentages of tree cover in Europe, so our aim is to replace this lost habitat by planting 13 million trees, and we're also creating acres of grassland and wetlands habitat, so it's not just about the trees. Next slide, please. So clearly, the benefit of the forest, of growing the forest, is benefit to wildlife and the environment, combating climate change. But the forest is also about people contributing more widely to society and to our communities. The forest can be used for learning to help people fulfil their full potential. It benefits physical and mental health of our communities, and it also benefits the local economy. Next slide, please. So the reason for building employment for people with SEND into our business plan is because it absolutely complements our strategic objectives and our values. The Heart of England Forest is for everyone, and we believe that everyone has a role to play to help it to grow. We want more people to visit the forest regularly to improve their quality of life. We also want to broaden access to the forest and cultivate our future supporters, volunteers and employees. Next slide, please. So leading on to the second reason, we want to promote inclusion and diversity. If we want more diverse audiences to visit the forest and more diverse people to get involved as volunteers, we need to make sure our workforce is diverse so our audiences can relate to us and see that the forest is for them too. Next slide, please. Thirdly, we recognise that our workforce is already neurodiverse. A career in the outdoors can be very attractive to many autistic people and people with conditions like ADHD. So we recognise that we've got a workforce of people with different needs and different talents, and we want to support everyone to thrive. So building supported internships and opportunities for people with SEND into our recruitment strategy is just a natural extension of the way we already work. Next slide, please. Fourthly, we have a business need. Just looking at the forestry side of things, let alone the wider business, we have 13 million trees to plant, which is going to take us about 100 years. And then about 5 years after we plant each of those trees, we've got 3 million tree tubes to remove. Thinking about our new tree nursery, we've got 2 million seeds to collect, plant and cultivate every single year. And on top of that, we've got 15 miles of pathways to maintain. That's before we even start looking at biodiversity and fundraising and comms, learning and skills, and all the other areas of our business. Next slide, please. Finally, there's a need in society. We began 2 years ago working with young people with complex special educational needs and disabilities from Vale of Evesham School. And it was then that we became aware that the school struggled with even finding meaningful work experience and volunteering for their pupils, let alone paid employment. So I think this statistic is a little bit out of date, but the statistic that less than 6% of people with SEND find full-time employment is shocking and absolutely unacceptable, and we wanted to do something about it. Next slide, please. So we had already committed to providing weekly volunteering for our young people from Vale of Evesham School. We've committed to running 3 supported internships, and we'd also been providing a work experience placement for a young person with special educational needs and disabilities, who we hope is going to be commencing a maintenance apprenticeship with us later this year. And that was before the Green Recovery Challenge Fund opened for applications. So the fund was about green recovery and job creation. So from where we were, it was only a very small step to make sure we were including opportunities for people with SEND into our business plan. So the funding has enabled us to increase the number of supported interns to 6, and it will provide a pipeline to create further local jobs for adults with SEND as part of the project sustainability. So we're early on in our journey, as I said, and we see challenges ahead, but working with Think Forward, we know we can overcome those challenges, and it is clear that working with people with SEND is already creating massive opportunities and benefits for us. So that's it from me. Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you, Elaine. Really inspiring, and it's been a real pleasure to kind of get to know your organisation over this last year. So thank you. So I'm now going to hand over to Dan Nash, who he manages the apprenticeship offer within the local authority, and it's just good to share how Warwickshire are putting their money where their mouth is. So thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Claire, and good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I'm Dan, and I lead the Warwickshire County Council Apprenticeship Scheme. So I'm just going to run through a few bits and pieces about why we're involved today. To give you a little bit of history about our apprenticeship scheme, we've recruited 247 apprentices up to this point since September 2012, plus more in schools. I don't have the stats on the schools, unfortunately, but into central services, we've taken on nearly 250 now into a range of areas, as you can see on the slide there, through very standard types of apprenticeships like business administration, customer service, IT, through to some really niche things like apprentices in our country parks or in vehicle maintenance, waste and recycling. We try to put apprentices into every service possible within the council to just open up opportunities for predominantly young people to take advantage of and begin their careers with the county council. We recruit at all levels, so from your level 2 or level 3 entry type apprenticeships through to higher apprenticeships, and even last year we recruited our first degree apprentice who is doing a degree in civil engineering, along with working with our county highway service. So we've got a really broad offer, and we do it for the right reasons. We've got an excellent retention rate, so 156 apprentices have completed since 2012. 116 of those have been retained within the organisation, and we always want to retain apprentices where possible, although sometimes they do move on and that's their choice at the end of their apprenticeship. So a further 24 have moved on into employment elsewhere or gone on to further or higher education after their apprenticeship with us. But we're really pleased with that retention record, and we always aim to keep it high. Next slide, please. Thank you. So with that history and involvement in apprenticeships, we now want to get on board with inclusive apprenticeships. Reasons for doing this is, first and foremost, we're a disability confident and a committed inclusive employer. So we've already got our commitments to those areas, and this can further aid our commitment to helping disabled people into job roles with the council and being an inclusive employer. It also follows on from our recent introduction to using supported internships. So since 2019, we've partnered with Warwickshire College, and we had 3 supported interns in 2019, 2020. And we've got 2 with us at the moment. It's really unfortunate that COVID has had quite a big impact on this for us and for many other employers, I believe. But hopefully this year things can get better. We can get fully up to speed again on our supported internship programme and continue to grow that after its early success. And also in 2021, we are making inclusive apprenticeships part of our offer. We've already committed salary and levy funding to get 3 inclusive apprentices. And we look forward to working with MENCAP as our training provider. I completely agree with what Louise said earlier about talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not. And we want to be able to provide that opportunity, the same kind of opportunity that's clearly worked for someone like Tarai. Fantastic story from you, Tarai, earlier, and really inspiring stuff. And we want to enable young people like Tarai, or the current young people looking for that first venture into their career, their opportunity too. We want to be part of many employers and lead the way in terms of employers offering this kind of opportunity to them. And we've got no hesitation in supporting this initiative because in a way we've already done this with apprentices. We've already had apprentices who have had some kind of learning disability. We've had apprentices on the autism spectrum, for example, and we've supported them through to completion and retention through their apprenticeships previously. So I've got absolutely no doubt that we can make inclusive apprenticeships work as and when they start later this year. Next slide, please. I also just want to bring up finally levy transfers. Warwickshire County Council is a levy paying employer, which basically just means we contribute to the apprenticeship levy, and we have apprenticeship levy funds to use for paying for all of our apprenticeship training. But what this also enables us to do is to transfer up to 25% of our levy allocation to external employers, so non-levy paying employers. And we have got an offer to Warwickshire businesses to take advantage of this offer, or businesses outside of the county who offer an apprenticeship opportunity to a Warwickshire resident. So through our apprenticeship levy small business support programme, we can support eligible external employers to apply for this funding so that they could take advantage of this inclusive apprenticeship scheme as well. If funding is difficult for an employer, and if it would be really helpful for them to be able to take advantage of this funding so that they can offer inclusive apprenticeship to a young person, we would very happily discuss that with you. And so I just wanted to make sure that everyone's aware that this is something that the County Council can offer, and we will welcome applications for offering this kind of apprenticeship from any Warwickshire employer. So do get in touch with us. If we go on to the next slide, please. Those are my contact details. So if you'd like to discuss that further, by all means, ping me an email or get in touch, and I'll happily enable you to go through the process to do that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dan. And it is really brilliant to have the local authority really leading on this. So thank you so much. So the next person I'd like to introduce is Mark Capper from MENCAP, and we are really thrilled to be partnering with MENCAP to be the to deliver inclusive apprenticeships across Warwickshire. So over to you, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm conscious of time, and I'm sure people have got places to go at one, so I'll try and rattle through a little bit. So for those of you that are not aware, MENCAP is a national learning disability charity work across England, Wales and Northern Ireland. And for the purposes of our employment programmes, we work with people with a learning disability, a learning difficulty and autism. So if you can scoot through to, I think it's slide 5, go past that one and that one. Here we go. So currently within apprenticeships, so the last couple of years, the statistic for people with a learning disability within apprenticeships is only at 4.12%, so significantly lower than all other client groups. Next one, please. So some of the barriers that contribute to this are the minimum levels of maths and English, which I think Tarai referred to when he was speaking earlier, and perhaps a lack of training, specialist training provision. So a lot of apprenticeship training providers are excellent at providing apprenticeships and do that extremely well, but there is some specialism involved in supporting our client group. And like the excellent stories we've heard about the supported internship programs, there are some adjustments and additional support needs that can be brought in to make apprenticeships more accessible and more amenable to people. Next one, please. So we're delighted to be working in partnership with Warwickshire Council and Warwickshire County Council and with DFN Project Search. So as well as Dan and Faye in the council team that can help with the employers to get things on board, it would be great to have a throughput of young people coming from the DFN Project Search route, of which there are many in Warwickshire, onto a progression onto an apprenticeship programme. Next one, please. So in terms of the barriers, the maths and English one is interesting. A lot of training providers are not aware that actually there are some exemptions around minimum levels of English and maths in apprenticeships. So whilst not all of the people that come onto MENCAP's programme will be eligible for this flexibility, there are some that will be able to work at entry level 3 maths and English if they meet criteria on the following slide. You can move on to the next one, please. So there are 4 key criteria that mean that people are eligible for these flexibilities. Number 1 is having an education, health and care plan, or what's referred to as a legacy statement. There's a need to have an assessment carried out on somebody's ability, and there needs to be absolute view that that person, even with a lot of adaptations, is not going to be able to meet the minimum English and maths levels. And the employer and the training provider must reasonably expect that person to be able to complete all of the other components of their apprenticeship programme. And in some cases, there may be some industry specific requirements that prevent that adjustment being permitted. But just on the key one, the education, health and care plan, it's also important to note that for the employer and the training provider, there's an extra £1,000 available in recognition of some of the extra support that's needed. Next slide, please. So some of the reasonable adjustments that you can put into place. So it may be that you extend a programme slightly. So based on the assessment of that person's need, certainly if they're going to be coming straight into an apprenticeship from having done little or no employment previously, going into a full-time programme is quite a challenge. So they may consider whether you want to extend the programme, to 16 or 18 or 15 or 18 months. Also looking at some of the reasonable adjustments in the recruitment process, making sure there's some additional learning support. It's also useful to work with smaller groups. So where a traditional caseload for an apprenticeship provider might be around 40 to 1 for one member of staff, MENCAP's programme tends to work with around 15 to 1. So it's a much more intensive programme. There's also some consideration around the endpoint assessment process, which can be quite a significant barrier. And I think when we started delivering the programme, we perceived this being quite a challenge. But actually, in reality, being able to support the person during their professional discussion, having a job coach alongside them to be able to prompt them to give examples, allowing extra time for the whole process, both as reasonable adjustments under the Equalities Act, meant that people that we've taken through our programme have been able to achieve their apprenticeship. So, some small tweaks, nothing too major, and suddenly you've got a more accessible programme. Next one, please. So in terms of the support that's available, so as MENCAP, we're able to offer some learning disability awareness sessions to employers. So really understanding about what learning disability is, and given an opportunity for managers and staff teams to ask questions, some of those questions that they might be afraid to ask, so that we can try and break down some of those barriers. We can also look at some of the recruitment process, so making sure that adverts are accessible and actually attractive to people with additional needs. So making sure that the language is not inaccessible, making sure that they're not unreasonable requirements set of the role. People tend to put KPIs into roles, key performance indicators, that can potentially make the role less attractive. So just making sure that it's targeted at the right people, and that the language and the pitch is correct. But again, similar to the supported internship programs that have been mentioned previously, the role of the job coach is key. So for an employer, it gives you some reassurance that you've got somebody working alongside the apprentice so they can learn at appropriate pace, and there's not an unreasonable amount of additional support time requested of the employer or the manager within the employer's premises. Next one, please. So just to give you an example, we've got Kazim. So Kazim was somebody, so whilst we don't necessarily advocate for somebody to come through all of our employment programs, Kazim was quite unique because he actually started as a supported intern. He did a placement at a law firm in London, but then when there wasn't an offer of a job at the end of that program, we then looked for another opportunity, and he transitioned onto a traineeship program with Homes for Haringey, housing association in North London. He then moved from his traineeship onto an apprenticeship program and became the first Fire It Up ambassador for the National Apprenticeship Service with a learning disability. And you can see in picture meeting Sadiq Khan at the apprenticeship event last year, in fact 2 years ago. So Kazim actually finished his apprenticeship program in January, and he passed, and he's now got a job with Homes for Haringey. And as you can see, you know, he by his own acceptance, it was a challenge for him to get onto the program, and I guess similar to Rai, perhaps didn't necessarily see what the future had for him. So being able to come onto these types of programs, getting the right support, has meant that he's been able to go into a job. Going on for the next slide, please. So Kazim's job is not a job of charity. We're not asking for somebody to do a favour, and Kazim's manager here has made some comments about him in his role. So in addition to being able to sort of recognise that he's a valuable member of the team, I think it's also useful feedback to see that Mahi's been able to reflect on her own working style. And you can see there she refers to it as a learning curve, that working 100 miles an hour isn't necessarily beneficial for a lot of our other team, and it's just good practice to be able to sort of take that step back, communicate more clearly, making sure that everybody understands exactly what instructions or directions that she's giving. And certainly, you know, I think that's been hugely beneficial for Homes for Haringey as well as for Mahi and Kazim. Okay, next one, please. So in terms of the standards that MENCAP delivers, so we look at level 2 as an entry-level standard that we've been delivering. Customer services practitioner and retailer are ones we've already delivered. We will be delivering health and social care and logistics in the coming future, but we're not closing the door to any standard. So if you're an employer working in other sectors, please do get in touch and we'll explore, you know, how we can wrap that support around. Next one, please. So we've got a target of 15 apprentices within Warwickshire. So it's fantastic that the council are putting their money where their mouth is, and offering the 3 opportunities straight off the bat. But we really need to build some other employers into this network so we can develop a sustainable program in the longer term. So, you know, we'd welcome employers getting in touch and seeing what we can set up. My details are on the next one, I think. And hopefully I've left enough time for Jo to wrap up.
Thank you so much, Mark. And I guess what we're saying to you all today is a real call to action. We are looking for employers to come forward to us and say, yeah, we're really interested in running these apprenticeships. So I am really delighted that Jo Greenwell, who is our brilliant High Sheriff of Warwickshire, is just going to wrap this up for us and kind of summarise why this is so important to Warwickshire. Thank you, Jo.
Thank you, Claire. Feeling a little underdressed compared to the court outfit that you just shown. What a brilliant set of presentations. I'm also, like Mark and the others, conscious of time, so I will be brief. I'm coming at it from 2 main perspectives. It's almost 50 years now since I was given a chance, an opportunity, and that's what this is all about, really. I was given a traineeship, and then other opportunities came. And I've been involved throughout that time in promoting skills development and apprenticeships on the basis that that job changed my life. I had a career for over 40 years and other opportunities presented themselves. So I feel keenly the mission that and the objectives of inclusive apprenticeships. When I was appointed High Sheriff, I chose the theme of employability. I chose it before the pandemic came upon us, but it occurred to me that there was never a more acute time of need for 16 to 24-year-olds in general, but particularly acute for those with special needs. And two presentations have referred to this disparity between the general population in paid employment of 80%, and I'm not sure if it's 6% or 7%, but it's really low, and that disparity is really worrying. A lot of talent unidentified, potential unfulfilled, and I think Turai's journey, his story, is coming to a crossroads. I really felt that. He could have gone either way, but look where he went and look what he's become. And all that came from a chance. So I guess the ask of the businesses, and thank you so much for all the businesses who have joined us today. It's tremendous. If you'll forgive me for being parochial, thank you to JLR. I dropped upon them yesterday, and I know Miles is on the call. I'm really grateful to JLR for supporting this call. But the ask is pretty simple. Mark's slide kind of spelt it out. Great for Warwickshire County Council, providing leadership on this front, but we need more. There are more Turais out there. He made the point, hundreds of them, he said, in Warwickshire. And I think it's incumbent on all of us, looking at that disparity and realising how much talent could go to waste, that we ask the businesses to think, to consider whether they could help a Turai, another Turai, with an inclusive apprenticeship. It's a really supported programme. There's some real expertise that you can gather around yourself. And if you do nothing more, ask questions. How can it work in my environment? How can I make it work for the individual? The impacts, the business benefits that Louise set out are really compelling. And her sentence, socially responsible business is attractive to customers, employees, shareholders. That rings more true nowadays than ever before, I think. And the point has been made by several presenters. So I ask businesses to think carefully upon what they have seen in the last 60 minutes and help give an individuals the chance. Every one of the business representatives, I reckon, had a chance. And I reckon more opportunities have presented themselves to them subsequently, and their careers will continue to flourish. So give Turai and his colleagues a chance, please, and get involved in this programme. It's beyond a worthy mission. This is a real societal imperative. 6 or 7% in paid employment versus 80% for the general population. Can't let that waste continue. So in Warwickshire, and for the businesses that are on the line, please help us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. Sorry, Joe. I'm saying Mark because somebody in the chat saying, how do we get in touch? Who should we contact? And I'm going to suggest it's Mark. But Joe, that was really sensational and exactly spot on everything that you said. So thank you, everybody, for today. And Mark, would you just pop your, maybe Mark and Dan, pop your, brilliant. And our plan is, we'd really be happy to stay on and take any questions if people have them, but also we'd love to send this to you, and we would really love to hear from you. We can do this. Warwickshire is brilliant, and Warwickshire has all of the components to really make sure that everybody leads their best life, but we have to come together to do that. So thank you for your time. Thank you to all the brilliant speakers. You have all been very inspiring, and so many people have said so in the chat. So thank you very much, everybody. And you know, a few of us will stay on if anybody does have any questions, but have a really great day, and great to be with you all. Thank you.